Hello and welcome to the Wayfaring Panda. I'm Annette. Today I'm combining paper crafting with cooking in order to make some special fall gifts. And I'll be making some pumpkin syrup, and first I'm starting with making some tags to put on the pumpkin syrup. This video is part of a YouTube hop with Team Tiny, and our theme today is autumn. So you can catch the other videos by typing in the hashtag Team Tiny Autumn Hop 2021, and I'll have that in the description below. And if you just click on the hashtag, that'll bring up the other videos in the hop, and you'll get some other inspiration for autumn. For the tags, I just used a paper punch from Recollections that's shaped like a tag to cut out the tags out of Bristol smooth cardstock, which is good for ink blending. And I'm using my dome foam applicator with some carved pumpkin distress ink to go over my tags. You can use different paper punches, or you can use dies, or you can just cut out the size of a tag that you want. I use this paper punch because it was the size I needed for the stamps I'm using. I'm going to emboss the sentiments. So first of all, I'm going over the tags with my embossing buddy from EK Success, and that's basically just putting powder over the card so that the embossing powder doesn't stick anywhere except where you put the stamping ink, or at least hopefully it doesn't. Next, I'm using Versamark ink to stamp my sentiment, and that's a sticky ink that stays sticky long enough for the embossing powder to stick to it. And I'm using these stamps from Lawn Fawn, which is called Pumpkin Spice, and I'm stamping the words, "You're the pumpkin spice in my latte." So I just put that on the tag how I want them, and then I use a clear stamping block to pick it up. And here's the paper punch I used to punch out these tags. Next, I use this embossing powder from Ranger, which is called Copper, and I'm using that to emboss my sentiment. So I just sprinkle that on and use my heat tool to melt the copper. It's actually a plastic that's copper colored. Now, I found out that it kind of stuck a lot, so my powder didn't work enough with this. And I keep flicking it off, but it still didn't all come off. I also tried using a brush, and that didn't get it all. I thought it'd be okay because I thought, well, it looks kind of like I sprinkled the pumpkin spice all over the tag. But it looked a little bit messy. I tried it again on the other one, and then I decided that maybe I didn't let the ink dry enough as far as the orange ink, and so maybe that's why it was sticking. But I still had trouble again, so I did remake these again off camera, which was a little bit better, but it still stuck a lot. And I think the problem is that this ink is not the ink, the embossing powder is really fine, so I think that's why it was sticking so much. I have heard that the WOW embossing powder is anti-static, and I do think they have a copper colored, so that might be a better choice. But none of the stores near me sell that. Next, I'm using my chocolate chip stamp pad from Stampin' Up to stamp my images from the Lawn Fawn Pumpkin Spice, which is I guess a coffee mug, or it could be a teacup or cocoa, and also the spice shaker. And I'm using this on some Bristol smooth cardstock. I found some metallic colored pencils I'm going to try to use. They were in our stash. I think they may be my sister's. So I'm going to use those on this, and I didn't really know what paper would work good, but this seemed to work. Now, if you were going to color it with alcohol markers, you would have to use a different stamp pad. But I wanted to use the darker brown since I'm trying to get an autumn look. I found these pencils in our stash. My sister used to be a Stampin' Up demonstrator over 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, maybe longer, I don't know. Anyway, one of us had these in our stash, and so I thought the metallic colors would look really nice, And since the tag is kind of small, you need to do a big punch in a small space. So I thought the metallic would do that. And plus, I think of really regal type colors with fall. So I'm coloring my shaker lids with silver and the spice jar with kind of a copper color because I think that looks kind of like pumpkin spice. And then I'm using a silver color for the foam and a lighter brown color. I don't know what color it's supposed to be, but some type of brown for the coffee or tea, whatever you want it to be. And then I use a turquoise color because I relate that to kind of fall. Plus I love turquoise, so I use that for the mug. Next I'm using my paper punch. It's a hole punch to punch a hole at the top for the string. And I believe this is an 1/8 inch or 1/16 inch. Anyway, it's a small circle. And I'm cutting that to put my string through so I can tie it onto my gift. Then I'm using some Lawn Fawn gold twine to put on my tag. You can use whatever kitchen type twine that you have, or I think raffia would be nice. If you used raffia, you might have to use a regular size hole punch. Then I just used some art glitter glue to glue on my sprinkles and my coffee mug onto my tag. Now this gift I'm making, it's a pumpkin sauce. It's kind of like simple syrup, so you can use it in coffee, tea, hot chocolate, whatever you want. Or you can maybe make it a little bit thicker for pancakes. I decided the tags needed a little bit more embellishment, so I found these pumpkin brads in my stash. I got these at one of the scrapbook and stamp conventions, and they're from Eyelet Outlet, and so you can order these online. You can also decorate with pumpkin stamps, any other pumpkin decoration you have, maybe stickers, or if you have die cuts, maybe a pumpkin or leaf stickers. Whatever you have, just add a little bit more embellishment. And then that finishes up my tags, and I'm ready to make the pumpkin syrup. So this is just a simple syrup. I'm just adding water and then equal parts sugar, or you can use honey, which I use a combination of both. And that just steamed up because I turned on the stove and then got my camera ready, thinking it wouldn't heat up too much in that short of time, but it took me a while to get the camera adjusted. So I'm making a double batch. You can make a single batch if you only want one bottle if you're using smaller containers. So I'm using 2 cups of water and then 1 cup of brown sugar and 1 cup of honey. You could do all brown sugar or all honey, or you could do white sugar. I just thought the brown sugar would give it more of a fall flavor. Then I just cook this over a low to medium heat and then just cook it until the sugar is all dissolved. Next I'm adding 4 teaspoons of pumpkin spice and then 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I can't level it off like I normally would because my jar is too small to get the spice in, but this isn't an exact science. It's not like baking where you want an exact amount because it's really more for taste and what you like. Now, if you don't have pumpkin spice, you can use a combination of the different spices that are used in pumpkin spice. I don't have the recipe for that. I just had this on hand, so it's easier to use. But it would be a combination of cinnamon, cloves, and usually ginger and nutmeg. And sometimes allspice. Then I'm adding 1 cup of pumpkin puree. If you're like most of us, we just use the canned version. But when you buy it, just make sure you're getting pumpkin puree and not pumpkin pie filling because that will have eggs and other stuff in it. This is just pure pumpkin. So for this recipe, you're just cooking it so everything dissolves and stirring it. So there's no exact order to this. I just find that if you put the water in the sugar and stir that first till the sugar dissolves, it's easier to make sure your sugar is dissolved. So you just want to cook it And it doesn't have to go to a certain temperature. Just make sure everything's dissolved. And then I'm going to set it aside so it can cool before I put it into my bottles, because I don't want to burn myself. Now, if you're home canning, you do need to boil, and there's other steps to it. But you cannot home can pumpkin because it's non-acidic, and therefore you could get bacteria in it. So you only want canned pumpkin commercially made. Now I'm adding 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So you want to add your vanilla or other extracts when you're cooking on the stove at the end of the cooking process. Otherwise, it'll mostly evaporate out and then you won't have much flavor. This vanilla I'm using is pure vanilla from Mexico that I got when I went on a mission trip. And the mission that we sometimes go to, actually I've only been once, but my sister was there a long time. They buy it directly from the factory, so it's really cheap, and also that way we know we're getting the real stuff. Sometimes on the street they'll sell you stuff that is not pure vanilla. Then I just use a funnel to pour my syrup into the bottles. And I don't know where the bottles came from. We keep them downstairs when we have bottles we want to save for either jelly or other things. And so these were either for barbecue sauce, which is what I think it was, or it could have been blueberry syrup that we buy from a farmer here in Missouri. Anyway, I poured those in, and this helped letting it cool a little bit. And this was enough to fill up 2 of these. I believe they're 16 ounce, so I think it's 32 ounce that this made. But if you are doing a smaller amount, you could make a single batch. And also, you could use syrup bottles, or if you don't have any fancy bottles like this, you could also use a mason jar. You just want something that looks like it's nice to give as a gift, and also that you can store in your refrigerator. Then I just use a clean rag to wipe off the bottles where I spilled it, and then I put on my lids, and then I tie on my tags. So first of all, I tried tying around just the top, around the back and over, and then on the other one I did a little bit more loose so it hung down. I decided I liked that better, so then I redid the first one that way. And you'll need to store these in a refrigerator. I don't know how long it'll last, but probably about a week. I hope you enjoyed the video. It helps you inspire you to make some gifts to give away. If you like the video, please give it a like. And I'd really appreciate if you can subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Please remember to check out the other videos on this hop by clicking on the hashtag link below or type in hashtag TeamTinyAutumnHop2021 and check out the other videos on this hop for further autumn inspiration and ideas for gifts and cards. All of the people on this hop have small channels so you can watch and have commercial-free videos. Thank you and have a wonderful day.